Hi guys, welcome back. So this is my putty lined pellet trap, the silent pellet trap that I built on the channel almost a year ago actually. It turns out that it's been one of the best inventions that I've had on the channel. It's been really good and the video is very popular as well. A lot of you were really into it. So after a year or so of use, it's looking a little bit tatty now. It needs a few more upgrades as well. There's actually a couple of design flaws in this that I need to address, so we're going to see how much further we can modify it today. I've got a couple of upgrades to do, and I also want to then talk to you about the putty lining. I think actually I prefer the putty nowadays over the lead lining that we used in some of the previous videos. So I'll show you what we're going to do and we'll get stuck in. Right then, first thing we're going to do is we're going to take these magnets off. Now, the biggest issue that I've found with this is these magnets are so vicious. Every time I want to try and take a card out or anything like that, I end up getting my fingers pinched, they get bitten. Look, they're absolutely vicious. So what we're going to do is actually remove the screw heads. Now I've just recessed some screw heads into there, and of course the magnet works through the card, grabs onto that. In theory it's great, but the problem with these is anytime I store it, stick it in the car, go back and forwards to the farm, they end up getting lost, stuck to the tray. I mean, they're pretty dodgy and they keep cracking as well. We've shot a few of them, they end up breaking. You can probably see that that one there is just about to crack. So what I've got here is some magnets that are cylindrical and they've got a little screw recessed hole in the middle. So we're actually going to take these screw heads out inside of the recess. We're going to clean up all of these bits of pellet that are stuck in there, and we're going to actually recess some of the magnets into the backboard so that all we need to find then when we're out shooting is something magnetic, nuts, bolts, washers, whatever on the outside, certainly bits then that aren't going to go mad. Now I had a really strange incident last year. My bank card just stopped working, completely stopped, chip and pin failed. They were in my pocket with it, so I'd probably knackered my card. So they're going to go. We've also got a little bit of repair work to do. We finally managed to break through the back of it when we were using the clamping rig with the anshuts in. I put a couple of 100 shots in the same place and eventually it broke through. That's really cool, look. That's the back of the old pellet trap where it's eventually busted through. It's all sort of spewing through. Good excuse to build a new version, eh? Right, I'll see you at home. We're going to top the putty up again. Last time when we built this, we used 2 tubs for a total of 1.5 kilos of putty. We're going to add this third one, so we'll have 200 bit kilos, 2.2 kilos of putty. A lot of guys in the States last time asked about this plumber's putty, and as far as I can tell from what a few of the guys said over there, this is normally called duct seal in America. So if that's where you are, that's probably what you're going to need. In the UK it's plumber's putty. It's a non-setting putty, so it's not the same as glazing putty. And I've also bought this to sacrifice. This is a post level, so the main thing we're going to do with this is see if we can extract these little mini bubble levels. It's been on there about a year, but this was just simply to hook on my tape measure, and then I could walk it out to measure distances. Just meant you could do it on your own, didn't need someone to hold the other end of the tape. Worked very well. That's going to go back in there, so that was definitely a decent upgrade. If you haven't seen the first video when we built this, I'm going to put a link up the top. Now I know a lot of you have watched that video. It's a very popular video, so thank you all for watching it. It certainly makes it worthwhile to actually spend the time making these things. And while you lot keep watching the videos, I'll keep making the stuff. Right, at the moment the screw fixings, they're going to stay as they are. They work absolutely perfectly. There's no need to do any mods to those. We do need to empty all of this out. Got my glovies on because I don't really want to get all the putty and the lead flakes all over my hands. Oh, look at that. You can see almost all of the individual groups as they've been shot. I'll get some nice photos of those. They're really cool. Even though this has got putty in it, I'm sure that that would just go back in the smelting pot. Probably have to be a bit careful with the fumes, but that will get remelted. That faceplate's still holding up pretty well actually. We shot it a couple of times. Just me being a numpty. We're not going to bother repairing those. We're going to leave it as it is, but we are going to clean this all up at the end and re-oil it. I've left it out in the rain a couple of times and it's still holding together very, very well. So, right, let's see if we can get that out. Now, if you remember back from the previous video, almost a year ago, we talked about how thick this putty should be, and we ended up at about 3/4 inch thickness. Now that turns out that if you're going to put a ton of shots in the same place and not pay attention to any holes, that's probably not enough. So I reckon once we've got the third tub of putty in there, we should probably be somewhere in the region of about 1.5 inches, in fact, maybe just a bit under. That should be pretty good. Of course, it stinks. It's actually a lot easier to extract the pellets from the putty than I anticipated it would be. Strangely, that's quite satisfying. Let's see if we can get them out there. Right, sacrificial chisel. Yeah, this has held up pretty well considering I've left it out in the wind and the rain quite a few times. We will give this a final clean up and a sand when we're finished and then give it a re-oil. But that's pretty good. What we need to do now then is measure up our magnets. Oh, I've stuck them to the bandsaw. Oh. Then what we can do, we'll just use a little force and a bit, we'll drop those down. We do need to be a bit careful because I've got some screw holes in here already. We may end up having to fill those holes with a bit of super glue and baking soda or something like that so we can use some little narrow screws. Right, oh, see that they get everywhere. Right, let's check the size of those quickly. Right, this is going to be a little bit tricky, so I've just clamped it down to the actual drill press base here. Of course, we're basically trying to do a larger hole over the top of a smaller hole, and we've got no wood there to locate the central pin of the drill bit, so I've just used the outside of the drill located in the recess. Hopefully we can do that without it all going a bit mad. So what we'll do, we'll drill the first one down to the required depth. I've marked up the drill bit there so we can set that to the appropriate depth. We'll test it as we go, then once we are done and down to depth, then I'll set the depth stop up the top here, so then we can do all three of the others the same. Right, let's see if we can send it one-handed, shall we? Well, didn't go mental, that's a good start. Right, we'll do a test fit, see if we need to just adjust the depth quickly. Well, that works out alright, that was nice and safe. We can press them in there. The problem we've got now is that we obviously drilled some screw holes to hold the screws in before. We now have got much smaller holes in here, so we need to use a much narrower screw. So whether or not we can just wing it, maybe put a little piece of board on the back there, or whether we fill these holes in with some baking soda and super glue and re-drill them, I'm not sure yet. I'm just going to offer these up, press them in and see how far away we are. Not bad, that one needs to go down just a fraction. Right, let's see if we can fill these holes in. They're slightly off centre from the new magnet's position, so we've got some bicarbonate of soda. Let's see if we can't wreck it. And we've got some super glue. Ideally we would really wanted thin super glue, but that's all I've got to hand. Makes a chemical reaction, basically turns it to plastic. It goes rock hard. And of course my spatula of choice is a jigsaw blade. Don't pack that in too tightly. What we'll probably do once we've done that, we'll just come back with the old Forstner bit just in the hand drill just to clean the top edge of that off. And whatever you do, don't stick the end of your glue bottle. Oh, this is why you need the thin glue, because that doesn't... Oh, there we go, it's starting to penetrate it now. Yeah, thin super glue is much, much better. Like a rock already. Right, within a matter of moments, it goes so hard. Look, that's... Oh. Baking soda and super glue will get you out of a hole. It's certainly not what you're going to want to be using for fine furniture building, but it's really popular in crafting and hobbying sort of stuff. Making fishing lures, it's really good as well. So all I've done is just put the old Forstner bit back into the little baby drill. We're just going to locate it hopefully in here and just clean them edges up slightly if it doesn't go mad. Right, filled them holes in, screwed them back in, they're perfectly well in there now. A little bit squiffy, one of those, obviously the hole underneath was quite big, but as I said, we're making a target, we're not spending hours working on some fine furniture, so that will do. We're only going to shoot at it. Next fun thing to do, we've got to try and dismantle this and see if we can get these little bubbles out of there without destroying them. It's going to be interesting. Right, this is one of them little cheapy post levels for doing fence posts and things, but that was £4 I think it was, and it's got 3 little levels in there, so I thought that's probably the best option. See if we can sacrifice that and get them out of there somehow. Oh yeah. Ow. was pretty tough. Oh. Right, but that was an absolute mission. Don't attempt to try and take one of those apart. That one's exploded. They're well stuck in there. Even tried trimming it all up in the bandsaw, as you've seen. So we're going to order some fresh ones of those without a frame around them. Thought that might work. Nice cheap way of doing it, but it's not going to. So we're going to get some of this sorted, repair the back board or the back tray, and then we're going to make a levelling foot as well for it. So let's get cracked on, shall we? Scrap block. Let's find something to reinforce the back of that, shall we? Right, I've just cut myself an aluminium sheet to go in the back there, but obviously steel would be better. I don't really use steel for an awful lot of stuff, so we've got a bit of aluminium, but what I'm going to do is put some of the old putty, I'm just going to bed it onto that in the back, so I'll show you that quickly. Right, here's some of the old putty. If we line that all out, look. And then we'll stick that down to it. We'll put a little bit of a flat bit in the middle as well, where it seems to get most impact. I thought by now, after the amount of times that I've reshaped this and shot it and everything else, that it would have softened up by now, but still really tough, really malleable, and collects them pellets beautifully. It's good gear. The main reason I'm doing this is just to stop any resonance. If it vibrates, it's going to be really annoying, so hopefully I can just bed that down on there. I'm just going to put a nice flat bit in the middle. Yeah, that's good. It doesn't resonate. Probably a good 1.5 inches, nearly 2 inches thick total with an aluminium plate in the middle. As I say, a steel plate would be better, but don't really work with steel in here. It means getting the grinder out. Grinding sparks are never really good in little shops that are set up for woodwork, really. So I'm going to try and roll this out and then get the old Fresh Plumber's putty on the top. I'll just work that back out to the edges. Right, that's the old lot. We've got over 1 inch thickness now with the alley plate in there. The plumber's putty is an absolute nightmare to get out of its little tubs. I spent 20 minutes in the last video. Oh, got short-changed on that one. If this wasn't so good to use as a backstop medium, I'd ban it from the channel like I have double-sided tape. It's an absolute nightmare to work with. It's fairly warm in the shed at the moment and it's quite sticky now. You're definitely going to want gloves on for this. Right, spread that all around in there. We've got, well, just under 2 inches thickness now, so that's pretty good. I'm pretty sure that even though that plate in the middle is aluminium, that's going to work absolutely beautifully. There's no vibration or anything like that. I've just ordered some fresh little bubble levels, so they're going to be here tomorrow. So the next thing to do is get onto this. We're going to give it all a good clean up, quick sand on all of the exposed woodwork and give it a fresh oil. Hopefully it will last another year. Right, giving it a quick oil, bit of a clean up. I will see you tomorrow when the bubble levels arrive and we can get cracked on. Then we've got a start of a new video. Actually, we've got some cool pellets that we're going to be testing. That will be in the next video, of course, but we'll be able to use the new trap. I'll see you tomorrow. Right, it's the next day. We've had these turn up. These are little trailer levelling levels, so we've got 2 on there. I'm going to put one up in the top left-hand corner of the board. I'm probably just going to stick a single screw in at the moment so I can calibrate it to make sure that it will actually sit true. I don't know how accurate these are. They're probably not going to be incredibly accurate, but the whole idea of having the level on there, of course, it's just going to promote better muscle memory of keeping the gun upright, less chance of canting it. And even if you then get out into a competition circuit, if you're HFT in it, pest controlling it, muscle memory will kick in and you should just get a better chance of keeping everything upright. So I've just marked out a little hole in the corner there, just going to drill that and screw it on with the single screw for the moment. I've still got baking soda and super glue in that drill bit. Right, that'll work. I've given it an oil, as you can see. It's all looking a lot nicer now. Hopefully that will last another year. Something that I forgot to mention, actually, I did mention it in the last video. Since I did the last video, a lot of guys have said they've been using the putty as a media to catch their airsoft BBs, and also guys with catapults. I guess when you're using larger bearings in catapults, probably a bit dodgy for ricochets at times, and I'm told that this works really well, like I say, for both airsoft BBs and catapult ammo, so that's pretty cool to know. Not something I've actually tried myself, but I'm reliably informed that it works. Right, that'll work for testing purposes. Right, what I'm going to do off camera, I'm just going to use this little scrap of wood to make 2 opposing tapers. A bit like that, but much smaller. And of course, when we just adjust the distance between them, the distance in the middle here increases or decreases. So I'm just going to make some very narrow ones of those. They're going to sit in one of the legs. Of course, we just have one side that's adjustable, so then if it's a bit higher or a bit lower, we can just simply use them as shims just to adjust this, make sure it's level. Of course, out in the fields, occasionally the ground's obviously all over the place, so it's going to be quite handy to be able to do that. I think now we'll get this all reassembled, and then in the morning we'll run it up the farm and give it a little test, shall we? Right, we can adjust that when we get up there. I've got my screw eye back in the front here. I'm just going to make the levelling wedges up. That's a bit boring, so we'll do that off camera, but it's now a decent magnet retention system. The magnets now aren't going to be biting us all the time. I've just got some M8 nuts here. Anything that's magnetical works, of course. Previously, if we lost a magnet, we were stuck and had to tape stuff on, but you're never really going to struggle to find something magnetic, especially on the farm. There's always stuff laying around. That's going to work really well. Nice. The best silent pellet trap's got even better. Let's go and test it, shall we? Right then guys, it's day 3, believe it or not. Got it in the old Workmate here now. Now, I just looked through the screen of the camera that you're on at the moment. It's got a bit of a fisheye lens to it, so it doesn't look particularly true, but it is. I've just recalibrated the level on the top here. Just had one of my old little levels on the top. Now, of course, if you saw the first video, I made the actual target's aperture perfectly square with the outside edges, so we can just level off of any of the faces, make sure the targets are upright. I've got some new pellets to test, so I'm just going to chuck a couple into the back here quickly, because I've got some quite strange results with these new JTS pellets, so I'm just going to chuck a couple in the back. We're going to peel them out and see if we can see any anything unusual on the skirts, so I'm going to get a couple of shots into it quickly. Right, we're going to chuck a few of these, the JTS Dead Centre pellets through it. These are the new 177 pellets. Now, there's been quite a lot of hype about these in the larger calibers. I was a little bit impatient. I've already actually run quite a few of these through a couple of the rifles at the club, so I've shot them out at 50 metres already, and I've shot them 25 indoors, but the results I've got were a little bit strange, so I'm just going to quickly chuck a couple into the back of the fresh pellet trap, so I want to have a little inspection of these, and then the next video will be entirely about the dead centres, because they've been causing quite a stir. There's a bat down the end there. They've been causing quite a stir, Yeah, my results are slightly unusual and I can't quite explain some of the results I've had so far, so I'm just going to chuck a couple of these straight into the centre of the box. I can hear a buzzard over the top of us somewhere, can't quite see him. Right, let's go and pick those out of that back box. Right, I've just seen a bat go into here. Didn't have the GoPro down range typically. Maybe we'll have to have a little look and see if we can see him, because that'd be really cool. Right, anyway, targets. So the fresh putty is really, really soft. It collects those really well. And you don't get an awful lot of damage on the skirts if you're looking to spot any weird rifling marks or anything like that. The skirts stay fairly well intact when it's fresh like this. Right, but they've hit that really hard. They've deformed massively. Right, that's for the next video anyway. Target box is done. It's had some significant upgrades, so it's now an awful lot safer with the magnets there. We're not going to get bitten by just using some washers to hold the cards in. We can now calibrate it, which means that in theory we can be a bit more accurate with our placement of our aim points. We've also now got some little opposing tapered wedges that we can either use just a single one, or we can adjust them across the top of each other to fine tune it if we're using the legs out in the field. So that'll do it for this one, guys. I will catch you in the next one, and we're going to try and get them JTS pellets done. So I'll see you then.